Okay, I think we'll get going, everybody. My name is Steve Boers. I'm the director of the SEC Entrepreneurship Center and Focus Suites. We appreciate your attendance today at our Perk Up Thursday coffee. Uh, our services are still open, so I hope that if you have business needs or questions that you have to help get you through these turbulent times, I hope you'll reach out to us. And give us a call or an email. We are still open for business, but we're working remotely, like a lot of people. Um, Next week's speakers will be Brooke and Kat. They have a special presentation prepared, and I'll have Brooke tell you about that toward the end of the call. For now, I'm delighted to introduce Focus Suites alumni, Steve Maly with Maly Marketing. Steve has built a very vibrant marketing agency. They have beautiful offices, complete with a wet bar that has always made me very jealous. Working at a college, that's a no-go. But he's got beautiful office space. They do a lot of really good work. And so I'm going to turn it over to Steve and let him share his wisdom. Steve, thanks for being with us today.
Perfect, Steve. I definitely appreciate it. Yeah, that bar has come in handy because we have a check-in meeting every day, or we did when we were all physically here right around it. And so we were looking at moving. We were supposed to actually move offices in March. And then obviously when everything hit the fan, that got delayed. But one of the things that we're kind of curious about in the new office didn't have that bar. And not saying like the bar is just there for drinking, but like it's just a nice area for you to congregate. It's kind of like when you have people over to your house, and a lot of times people just end up in the kitchen for whatever reason. Because people would always kind of end up around the bar, so it worked out really well. No, when Steve reached out to me to speak, is I was trying to think through a couple different angles to take it. What I want to be able to do is we started a group here a little bit over a month ago. So what the backstory was when crap really hit the fan, I was trying to figure out what the heck to do. Unfortunately, one of the first areas that people cut, and you go into a recession, is marketing. It's one of those things that they feel like they can control that, and so they do a pullback. Some other people that have some cash know right now is a great time just to dive in. You got a bunch of advertisers that are just pulling out of the marketplace, in which makes just media that much cheaper and value adds that much cheaper. But when I was trying to figure out what the heck to do in this, current situation that we're in, I reached out to numerous people in my network and realized we're all trying to figure out what to do, kind of in the current situation, this new normal, if you will. So what we ended up doing was creating a weekly Zoom call, and it's every Friday morning at 11 o'clock. And we'll bring in different speakers and different people to help just kind of gain some clarity on the current situation. We brought in Rhonda Britton here a few weeks ago. She's a fear coach based out of California. She's been on Oprah in the past. She won an Emmy, for a series that she was a host of. And so she helps people kind of overcome fears. We had a lobbyist from DC last week that was on, and she and her firm literally helped write some of the CARES Act bills and those type of things. She gave us a bunch of insights on that. We've had local leaders like, Boyd Over of Leadership Resources talking about what it's like to manage during the crisis. Because both him and John Radway are old enough to remember the Black Plague and what happened during the Black Plague and what they can really kind of do now to overcome it. So what I wanted to do, and I went back through and took a look at a bunch of my notes and stuff, what I want to be able to do is kind of talk through like the top really 9.5 lessons that I've learned going through this by hosting these calls and being able to speak to some of these people. Again, these calls are open. I can put a link in if you want kind of later on. But it's helped people kind of get a sense of clarity a little bit. So I want to be able to share some of that stuff with you guys. One of the top things that's popped up again and again in some of these calls, and just talking with people, is that people tend to be more accessible now than almost any other time. Part of it is lack of business for some people. It's a lack of business. They just got some more time on their hands. Part of it is they're just open to any type of connection. Talking to somebody that's different versus being stuck at their house, if you will. We've had some really amazing Zoom calls for 30 minutes, and it's just a 30-minute ask. And if you think about it, a 30-minute ask before might be, an hour, 20-minute ask, depending on, for example, I'm out in the Highlands. So if I wanted to physically be out at Southeast Community College here now, that's, depending on traffic, that could be an easy 20-minute drive. So if I'm talking for 30 minutes, 20 minutes there, 20 minutes back, that's well over an hour. And it just cuts in the day a lot more. the one thing with the Zoom meetup, since people are looking for connections and stuff, is the Zoom. It's real quick, short, sweet, 30 minutes on, off. But you'd be amazed at the amount of people that are willing to at least chat now that before weren't willing to chat. So it's been really kind of cool to be able to kind of see that. And really, there's a lot of people just want to be able to help other people right now as well. And if you can do that kind of through networking and those simple apps, I think that works out really well. The second thing that we've really learned is, and the fear coach, I'm actually going to take you guys through this here in a second, Rhonda Britton, she took us through this exercise, and it was fantastic. Rhonda was on the call probably about 3 weeks ago at this point, and I still have people reaching out to me because they'll watch the replay and talk about the exercise that they took them through. And so what I want you to be able to do, if you have just a spare piece of paper on your desk, it doesn't have to be real big at all, but if you have a spare piece of paper, what I want you to do is just take out a pen or something to write with and just draw a line right down the middle. Something simple, draw a line down the middle. On one side, write down at the very top, just label it can control. And then on the other side, label it can't control. So it's real simple, can control, can't control. So you got two different sides of that. What I want to do is spend just even 2 minutes here initially, is jot down all the things right now that you can control. That could be anything from as simple as, making your own coffee. It could be as simple as, hey, making the decision that I'm just gonna, make the best of what it is, work out of the house. It could be as simple as like, I can control the phone calls I make. I can control the emails that I make. I can control like tone of voice. And then write down the things you can't control. One of them is that you can't physically all be together. I can't control if football season's going to happen or not. I can't control some of that. But just jot down everything, and it's just a quick little brain dump of what you know right now in the here and now, what you can control. And like I said, again, on the other side of it, can't. So I'll just give you about a minute to jot down some ideas on that side, because you'll notice something here in a second as you start going through it. So this exercise helps in a couple of ways. One, it kind of helps frame what you can control and can't control. The other one is literally once you put it down under the can't control, you kind of release it. It's like, all right, I can't control it. I've released it. I am done. I'm moving forward with it. The other cool thing, and I've seen this happen again and again and again and again, especially if you spend even 5 to 10 minutes going through this exercise, is you'll start to notice the list of what you can control is about 5 to 6 to 7 times longer than those things you can't. And things hit the fan like this, at first you feel like you can't control anything. But once you really start breaking that down, you'll be able to realize, no, I can still do this. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And it might be a little bit different. Might not be your normal, if you will, but you definitely have a lot more things you can control in today's situation than you might be giving yourself credit for. So that was one really cool exercise Rhonda led us through. So the third thing that we've learned through this whole thing is givers always win. It's been amazing that there's a book, a really good book by Adam Grant. Adam Grant is a professor at the Business School of Wharton. He's written numerous books. So he does a very deep academic study on a lot of this stuff. So it's not just an opinion piece. They do a ton of research on it. And one of the books he wrote, was Give and Take. So give and take, what it does is it's examine people, and they put them in 3 different categories. You have those givers. They're always willing to give insights, give advice, help out, knowing eventually they'll come back around, but they're willing to give. You have those other ones that are just takers. I just want to take what's in it for me, what's the best thing for me, all that is a very me focus. And you have those matchers. It's like, okay, I'll give you a favor. I might give you 2 favors, but you got to give me 2 more back, so we're always kind of even. Like, I don't want to get too far ahead or too far behind. And so he's done a lot of research on this, and this is across, sports GMs, attorneys, doctors, engineers, architects, just business leaders, if you will. and he did a big study on it. And what it came out is that givers always win. Short-term wise, in the first 2 months, is how he framed it, is that takers might win because takers are just trying to get up, above everybody, if you will. But long-term wise, givers always win. And he even took a look at sports leagues, and the best sports GMs, if you will, were givers. They saw that they got promoted faster, they ended up making more money, and they had better titles, if you will, than people that took. And I think in situations like this right now, it's always important to lead with value, period, but especially that much more now. And so that way you can give value and give value. And us as human beings, we're wired to reciprocate. And we might not be able to reciprocate, financially right now, but they also know if you lead with some really, really good value and you're willing to give, that the value, financial value, will come back to you down the road. And it's one of those things, is taking a look at it, it's a long-term game. But everything we're in, to a certain extent, is a long-term game. You're gonna have some short-term pain, but it's a long-term game that we're playing. The number 4 thing that I learned, and literally every single speaker we've had has hit home on this again and again, and a lot of the guests we've had on these Zoom calls have hit home again and again on this. It's over-communicate. If you think you're communicating enough, do it that much more. I was reading about this, just kind of went down in a rabbit hole, and I've realized I'm super guilty of this. It's one of those things, I have a lot of conversations in my head every single day. And sometimes looking back, I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure I told that person that. It's like, no, you just had the conversation in your head and you thought that you told them that. And they talk about is if you feel that you're communicating even like average, is you need to ramp that up 3 to 4 times more. And they're talking about in today's situation too, is over communicate, just checking in on people. How are you doing? What are you doing? What do things really kind of look like in your world? Again, I'm not here to pitch anything. I'm not here to sell anything. I just want to be able to, see how things are going for you. Seeing what we can do to kind of help set you up for success. Now, if that is on our side of it, if that is a marketing program, great. Or if that's simply just being an ear to listen to, it's great as well. Because a lot of times, right now, especially since we're working so remotely, we don't have the office dynamics. I can't just go walk into my creative director's office or go into the open area and talk to the design team. Is that we have to be able to communicate again and again and again and again and again and again, and especially as leaders, just to make sure it becomes very clear on that side of it. So I want to be able to take a quick exercise. This could be 30 to 40 seconds. But again, I know this is extremely valuable. We took our team through it. One of the calls that we went through this as well is on that note of over communicating. Who have you thought about lately and you've wondered, I wonder how they're doing? What are they up to? Is let's spend literally 30 seconds, 60 seconds. And it could be on the same piece of paper. Jot down 4, 5, 6 names that you've thought about, over the last month, and just jot down their names and make that your list. And your list could be, hey, I want to contact 3 of these today, or your list could be, I want to contact 10 of these today. And at times, you can decide how you want to contact them. You just want to text them to check in. You want to set up a Zoom call, is it an email, is it a phone call, is it whatever. So let's just spend a few seconds to jot down some of those names. So once you have it down, you can see it. And then ideally, you really follow through with it as well. And it's amazing. It's been a good friend of mine, and I probably haven't talked to him for, a solid month. And it was a quick 10-minute phone conversation. He was in the middle of something, so he had to go. But at the end of it, he's like, hey, man, I really appreciate you reaching out. We haven't chatted for a while, and it was a good break. It was good just to be able to chat for a couple of minutes. So again, the power of this is huge. So we'll just give you a couple more seconds just to write down a couple more names you can think of. And again, by the end of the day, I challenge you to reach out to at least 3 people on that list and be able to think it through. The 5th thing that I learned was how important it is to personalize what you're doing, and the type of opportunity you have right now to personalize what you're doing. Now, personalize can even be one of those things that becomes a little, distinctive, if you will. Zoom background images. I see a shift, see a nice house. You see the stars. Sorry, the term is losing me right now, but the lights. And so you can be unique on that. But if you think about it, how many emails have you guys gotten from companies that you haven't heard from in months to years that's talking about, hey, this is what we're doing with the COVID crisis. Hey, we're all here together in the COVID crisis. I just want to let you know this is what we're doing about COVID. And it's like, well, I haven't heard from you for a long, 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 long time. Now you're sending out this blanket email to everybody. For me, it's been a great opportunity to realize how many different lists I'm on, and opt out of a bunch of those lists. But it also gives us a very different way, unique way to, again, make sure that our message can be very personalized in talking through this. So what we've seen happen and what can work out well is to make it that much more personalized. Instead of shipping or sending a, the blanket email, if you will, record a quick little video. Be able to show off who you are, kind of your personality, to be able to kind of check in. There's a lot of people that are better at speaking, if you will, than necessarily writing all their thoughts down in an email anyway. So we've seen through Zoom will do it. There's another thing called Loom, Loom. Loom is great for to record your screen. So it could be your browser, it could be whatever you want to be able to show off. We've had some really good success sending out personalized emails. I'm like, hey, I just shot you a quick little 3-minute video walking through a couple of things here for you to consider. And since it is a personalized video, the beginning of the video would say, hey, John, we haven't talked for a while, but this is what I want to be able to talk about. Or, hey, Kat. And the cool thing is, a couple things from the marketing side of it, is once you send out that personalized video, you're only sending out that video to one person. You're not sending it out to a blanket list. You're sending it out directly to one person you're really trying to get in front of. You can tell if that person watched that video. Through loom.com is it'll give you an email notification when somebody does watch it. So now I send it out to Kat because I've been trying to talk to Kat for a while. I sent out that video. Now I get notifications she actually watched my video. It's like, all right, perfect. Now I can follow up again to try to get a time set, if you will. And those type of strategies have worked out really, really well. And it's just breaking the trend. Instead of sending out a blanket email to a bunch of people or any type of blanket marketing message, spending a couple extra minutes to be able to just record something personalized goes a long, long way. The number 6 thing that I learned, and this has kind of gotten hit over the head quite a few times, is a lot of times people right now aren't necessarily looking for solutions. Now, don't get me wrong, there's always that search to a certain extent of what do I do now, but a lot of times people just want to be heard. They just want to be listened to. And, I've realized, and a lot of times I'm wired, here's a good analogy. It's a husband and a wife thing. We'll play in stereotypes at times. Is a lot of times the wife might come home and start talking to the husband about something, and the husband wants to be able to solve the problem. The wife doesn't want that. The wife just wants him to be able to listen and be like, yep, all right, I acknowledge that. I'm present with you. I'm here to support you however you need that to be. And that's what people are looking for a lot of times right now. It's not like, you know what you should do? You should do these 17 things. It's like, no, just let me tell my story. Let me kind of get it out. Let me tell you, what this really kind of looks like. And I think it gives them a really good opportunity and allows you to be there for them. And people really remember that is when they're there for them. So the interesting thing is that, so I'm the middle child. I'm the forgotten child of the family. If there's any other middle children out here. So my older brother, that he speaks nationally on stage, and he's always chatting, always talking all the time. And then I'll talk quite a bit. My younger brother is really quiet. He hardly ever talks. We joke. The reason is that he had 2 older brothers to talk on his behalf forever. And his wife, who he's now been with for about 20 years between dating and marriage, that she loves to talk nonstop. So he doesn't have a reason to talk. But he goes to these events, and people always comment how good of a listener he is. And he is a pretty good listener. It's just he just doesn't like to talk, so he just sits there and he's that ear people can bend for a while. But again, he's memorable because of it. And like I said, a lot of times people aren't necessarily looking for a solution. They just want an outlet. They just want a connection. They just want you to be there and be present for them. The number 7 thing that I've learned through this process. So we got blessed 2.5 years ago, I'd say at this point in time, where we became beta testers for Facebook, and we're certified marketing partners with Facebook. So we get on the phone with them every couple of weeks. We go through, all kinds of stats, all kinds of things they're working on. We'll test out new things. One of them that's really cool right now for one of our clients is for every $1 our client will spend in advertising, is that Facebook is matching up to $5. So his goal is to spend $10,000 this month in some advertising, and then basically Facebook will pay for $40,000 to get the grand total of $50,000. So, and this might surprise you, but Facebook listens into our conversations. Google listens into our conversations. Alexa listens into our conversations. I'm sure you've seen it before. Like personally, we don't own a cat. I'm not a fan of cats. Like my family has a bunch of allergies around cats, so we won't ever adopt a cat. But I guarantee if I'm talking about a cat long enough, like I'll see cat ads or whatever on my phone on my device. So we met up with our Facebook rep a couple of weeks ago, and she was talking about the sentiment of people on Facebook and what are they talking about and how has that trended over the last really couple of months, not just here in the United States, but also overseas, where a lot of this got hit first and then kind of came over here. And obviously, when it all kind of hit the fan, people were, what the heck's going on? They're checking out Facebook, they're checking out online to find out news and the minute by minute updates and all the stuff that was changing. And she said over the last week to a couple of weeks, especially here in the US, the sentiment online has changed a ton. And they miss the days when they can go onto social media to escape, to escape the here and now. And unfortunately, a lot of it on social media is, hey, COVID's here. What are you doing about it? A lot of the advertising, I don't care if you're talking about online or you're talking about radio ads, TV ads, Hulu ads, all this stuff is all framed around COVID. This is what's happened with COVID. Hey, just we're here to support you, but while we're supporting you, you need to go buy a car from us. Like that's what the advertising message really is. So what she's talking about is that people want to be able to have an escape. They want to be able to future trip. They want to be able to have a picture painted for them of what normalcy is going to look like. Now, we can't guarantee if it's going to be normal in a month from now or 6 months from now, but that's what they're looking for. And that's what the chatter is about. It's like, I'm tired of the here and now. Paint me a picture of what things are going to be like again. Show me what we can do when, we get closer to that time period. And so that sentiment has really changed. And so we've never been big believers in fear-based advertising anyway. So a lot of our messaging is not like, hey, COVID is here. You got to, do this to become healthier or whatever. We've always had more of a positive outlook on the level of advertising. But with some of that sentiment, we've changed some of it and updated some of it even more, which I would call almost borderline cheesy, if you will. But that's working out extremely well because, again, people want to escape. They want a future trip. They want to see something different than what they hear time and time again, what they get reminded of time and time again. So keep that in mind when you're talking with people too, is help them kind of paint that picture of what things look like, whatever that time frame is, a couple of months from now, 6 months from now, whatever that may be, to help kind of paint that picture and change that conversation so they don't feel stuck like a lot of times they do in the here and now. Another good point that popped up, so this is kind of point number 8, if you will, is in moments of crisis or just moments like this, is know who your rocks are, who your sensors are. Be able to know, like, hey, when things hit the fan, so-and-so is a great outlet for me. I need to be able to pick so-and-so's brain. So for me, and many of you know, I'm Boyd over with Leadership Resources. He's kind of my center to a certain extent. He's like, I know if things are going crazy and nuts and I just need a different perspective, or I need to get somebody out of my, groove, if it's kind of a negative groove, is I can chat with him and he'll allow me to become more centered. And it's really cool to be able to take a look at the relationships that you have and examine who is that rock for you. Who can you really lean on? And making sure if they're your rock is that they have a rock to be able to lean on as well. Sometimes that's you, and sometimes it just needs to be somebody else, which is fine. But it's so important now to know, again, who can you really lean on during these times. And when I say lean on, it's not necessarily just, financially or whatever. It's just simply somebody that can give you some different perspective, different insight, isn't going to tell you the same thing that everybody else is telling you again and again. That's one nice thing I like about the SEC and the center and the coaching they do, is that they're there to be that support. They're there to be that rock. Like I've had conversations, with Brooke and Kat especially, hey, we should do this. And a lot of other people are like, oh yeah, that's great. That's cool. And they're like, well, what about this? Start poking holes, which actually really helps out a ton because, again, it's a different perspective, but making sure you do have those relationships with those type of rocks. The other side of it, number 9, and what we really kind of learned is right now is the best time to establish new habits. So this one actually came through another group that I belong to. And this guy does crisis management, and he got started back in the 90s. And so he's done crisis management 9/11, the Great Recession, obviously now. And so he'll do crisis management, but then part of his process is a big, long kind of follow-up after the fact, just to see the impacts and things that are made. And he's like, it's interesting. Every time there's been a big thing that's happened, again, 9/11, Great Recession, obviously this. He's like, you'd be amazed at the new habits that get formed, good or bad. Is especially now talking with people, is I know people that have started working out on a consistent basis. They've been talking about working out for years at this point, but they're starting to physically work out a lot more on a consistent basis because that is one thing that they can control, if you will. The other side of it on establishing new habits is if you think about it, a lot of us have kids, and the kids are at home being homeschooled at this point in time, and it's a moment that we'll never be able to recreate, a moment potentially we'll never be able to get back. And I know for me personally, I got an 8-year-old and we got a 4-year-old at the house. But with that 8-year-old, it can be frustrating because I don't remember some of the math stuff that she's trying to do and some of the other things. And then she comes back out, you don't teach it the same way my teacher taught it. Like, no. But it's on the flip side of it, it's also that perfect time for us to establish habits, like with our kids. So with like Finley and Jack, my youngest son, our daycare is still open, so he's at daycare most of the time. But with Finley, he's like, we'll do afternoon walks every single day. We always over lunch figure out a time to play a game. And ideally with that type of stuff, those type of habits don't change. Now, can we do an afternoon walk when she goes back to school? No, but we can do it early evening type of thing. The working out is another good thing to get in the habit of. You do get the negative habits, if it's drinking, if it's whatever else that kind of gets attached to it as well, that could be harder to break. But he said it was super interesting is all the people he saw that did really well coming out of these type of situations did it because they had an opportunity to establish new habits, and those habits carried over, even when that crisis, if you will, was all said and done. So I thought that was really kind of cool and something to be aware of. The other side of it, and actually I would call this kind of 9.5, and then we can open it up to questions as well, is the power and the importance of being present. Being present, on calls like this. I used to be super guilty of doing Zoom calls because we got a lot of clients nationally, and so we do Zoom calls with them. I have a screen open, but then I'll have all these other screens over here as well, and I'd be typing and doing other work while we were supposed to be kind of chatting. Now I've gone to just kind of full screen mode, and I do have some notes kind of over on the side, but it allows me to be present. It's the same thing, and we had a conversation a few weeks ago. Like, this is our reality, like individually, like this is kind of our reality. But going back to the kids, they have their own sense of reality. They can't see their friends. They can't go outside with all the neighborhood kids and do these things. They can't, go to school. So they have a different perspective on it as well. But it gives us a really good opportunity to be present with the people in front of us, the people that we want to be able to make connections with. Fortunately, things have slowed down a little bit. Like I'm an eternal optimist. So when I say fortunately things have slowed down a little bit, it does give us a bit more of an opportunity to really focus on the people at hand, of the conversation you're having, or even like the email you're trying to send, instead of bouncing back and forth all the time. Ideally this opportunity doesn't really happen again. So take advantage of this opportunity while you can. Again, it's something else that you can control that much more, especially in these situations. And we've hit on this theme a few different times. If you can be there and you can be present for somebody and not distracted, like a lot of times that we just tend to be kind of distracted, that's one of the biggest gifts you can give somebody really at this point in time. And different ways to be present. We've done like Zoom happy hours. We've done Zoom poker tournaments. This afternoon with my team, we meet up once a month to go through, all the numbers of the company. We go through any issues we got to, figure out and process, if you will. We go through any opportunities, and generally it takes a couple of hours, and we'll do it once a month. And so that's today, that's this afternoon. At the end of it, what we're going to do is actually play Jackbox, jackbox.tv. So it's, we can all be remote. We do it off of our phones. We'll screen share. It's like trivia questions, board games. Like, it's just fun, but it's a nice little distraction. We also have family and friends who are in California and in Denver, down in Austin. And that's how we've seen them more, just like this, than we have in years. Mainly because now it's top of mind and it's easy and it's an easy ask. I remember when my first friend reached out to me, he's like, hey man, let's do a virtual happy hour. I'm like, this is gonna be dumb, but it's actually a blast. It's a lot of fun to be able to go through it. There's been times, I know we've been on these calls for 2.5 hours, just kind of chatting, and it's been a good time. And the plus side of it is your bar bill doesn't really add up because you've already bought it at the house, and it's not like you keep on buying rounds at a restaurant. And so that works out really well. One other component, and then we'll kind of wrap it up and open up for questions, is we see this a lot, especially on social media. It's one of those things like, hey, if you don't learn a new language coming out of this, or you don't learn this new skill, there's new whatever, like this whole time off, however you want to frame it, downtime, is you just didn't take advantage of it. At times it's not about that hustle. It's not always about that grind. Again, be thankful for the opportunity in front of you. Maybe the opportunity now is to connect with people in different ways, is to reconnect with family, with friends. Again, just to be there for them. So it's not about that hustle. And hey, look me, this is what I did. I got a 6-pack and 6-pack out of this quarantine, and now we're ready to rock it. Like, you are fantastic. But also keep in mind, people deal with things differently. There you go, Luke. Everybody deals with things in different manners, in different ways. And so be cognizant of that and be supportive of that as well. Like I said, that's a lot of the top things that I kind of glean from these weekly meetups that we have, where we have different leaders nationally kind of come on and talk about stuff, and a lot of the trends that we've seen as well. So I know this isn't the typical marketing presentation, but I thought this was more pertinent because it's something we can all do, we can all control, we can all kind of follow through on. So I wanted to kind of highlight some of those learnings that we've seen. So like I said, I realized quick is that a lot of us don't have answers of what's going on, but let's control what we can control, let the other stuff kind of go to the wayside, and focus where we really truly need to focus right now. So that was what I got for my my 2 cents there, Steve. I know I talked a little bit longer than we kind of discussed initially, but hopefully it helped.
Steve, that was fantastic. Thank you very much. Well done. We'll open it up to questions here in a second. I want to take care of a couple of other things first. First of all, in your opening remarks, you gave John Radway a pretty good blast about being around for the Black Plague. And so I've unmuted John. Now I just want to know if he had a response to that.
Not only that, I've had some good conversations with Noah and the Ark.
Nice.
One of the things you and I both know Mr. Ober very well, and I appreciated your comment about rocks. And I don't know if you know my current role is I'm the development director for our foundation at the church. And you talk about the things you can control and you can't control. You also talked about the things, how do you create these lists? I'm going to throw that up there. 2 things. Our whole membership at our church has been divided up between the leaderships, and we're making phone calls every evening to members out at our churches. And I can't get in front of those people that have been strong givers to our foundations, but I can just call. You talk about givers gain and givers. I've been each evening I've been calling a member of our board, members who have been some of our premier givers to our foundation, and saying, "How are you doing?" I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking for doing. It's just touching base and seeing how you're doing. Mm-hmm. So your points today, Steve, were good. In spite of your insults, it was really. By the way, for those who don't know, Steve and I have known each other a long time, so we can do this. Thanks for a great presentation.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, now I'd like to have Steve judge our coffee mug giveaway today. So everybody hoist your coffee mugs up for Steve to see. And Steve, you can use whatever criteria you want. So scroll through, make sure you see everybody that's in attendance there.
Interesting. Is that a beer can? Oh, it's a tangerine can.
Yeah, it's seltzer water. So. Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of like. I'm actually hovering over his photo, but name's not appearing. I guess it's I'm trying to think. Black shirt, bald head, goatee beard, holding a brown white mug. I like that one for some reason.
David McGee.
It's perfect. It talks to me.
Okay, David McGee is our winner today of the coffee cup or coffee mug. I've got that down. That's in stone. Okay, I'm going to unmute everybody and feel free to shout out a few questions to Steve. He does need to leave here in about 5 minutes, so we'll have to pick and choose the questions, but everybody is unmuted, so holler if you got a question.
I just remark it's very helpful. Thanks, Steve.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Hey, Steve, this is Linda. So I wanted to show my SCC screensaver just because it's so cool, because it says adversity makes us stronger, but it kind of goes along with my Hartman family motto, which is the great ones adjust. And Brooke and Kat, I know have heard me say it 100 times. But that's kind of our family motto, the great ones adjust, and not to let excuses dictate everything. So, you know, that comes from a family of baseball and softball players that try to blame bumps and weather and everything else. So we're adjusting quite well at SEC.
Nice. Awesome.
Great.
Any other questions or comments for Steve?
I just want to say thank you for having the community calls that you've been having during times of crisis. The rocks, instead of sinking to the bottom, I think they raise to the top. And I appreciate the leaders that are among us, and these opportunities help us to recognize those. So I really appreciate your efforts.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. I did put a link in the chat to our Facebook group. It's a free Facebook group. There's no selling from the stage or anything like that. We got like 260 people in it. And it's good conversations to help kind of support everybody. And also then we give the details of who the next speaker is on their Thursday morning or Friday morning at 11 o'clock calls. So that way everybody kind of keeps up to date on that side of it. And we knew going into it, it's like with a bunch of people looking for answers, we will probably get quite a few people on these calls. We've had upwards of 52, 53 people on the calls in the past. We know it's not gonna last forever, but at least be that rock, be that support system, get different perspectives and insights for people. And maybe this lasts another 3 weeks, maybe last another 6 months. I don't know. We'll do whatever we can do on that front.
Steve, I want to thank you. Yeah, I want to thank you today. And I've been on your website, actually, very creative marketing ideas you've got. And I didn't realize you were going to be the judge today. I took this island motif targeting Mr. Boers, who has that merchant marine background. Oh, well.
I like it. I like
just keep attending, Doug, and we'll eventually get you as the winner, I'm sure.
I'll wear you down.
We'll get down to you, Doug. So when you're with Allo later today, greet my good friend Deanne Winger.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, she's been on some of the calls. She won't be on the one today, but she's been on. Well, I guess more of the physical meetups when we see them here locally. Yeah. I do like your bug, John, but I feel like you win all the time anyway. So.
Any other questions for Steve? I know his time is running short. He's got to run to another meeting. So one last question. Anybody have for Steve? If not, and Taiko is weighing in from Japan. So
yes, nice to meet you, Steve.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you for today's your speech. And I have a question. What is your background? Red and black.
Yeah, it's just soundboards. And so, so
cool.
There's offices right behind us. Somebody else's office is right behind us. And I got a deeper voice. The guy that's in the office has a deeper voice. And so we'd hear that going back and forth all day. So we just throw up some soundboards. And there's times on Zoom, it'll act as a green screen. So I can actually throw up a background, but it only shows up on those boards, which is kind of cool looking at times.
It's really cool. So I think what it is. So yeah, thank you very much. I'm very enjoy your speech. Thank you.
Awesome.
It's great.
Thanks for calling in from Japan.
At midnight. Yes. It's midnight there.
Yeah, it's midnight.
Really?
It's already Friday. It's that.
Nice.
Time traveling today.
Yes, that's right.
That's
So
awesome.
after that, I'm going to sleep.
And we have a virtual person from England here rocking a hat today. I don't think I've ever seen Graham with a hat.
Special occasion.
Special occasion, chaps and chapesses. Yes, it's St. George's Day, National Day of England. So one is definitely talking English, none of this American foreign rubbish, colonial. And yes, I should be waving the flag, walking up and down the street outside, and probably getting amused glances. But you know, one does what one does. So red and white, go England.
Love it.
And it's my cock and bull mug. So there you go. I can't get any more English.
I love it.
All right. Well, with all of that, Steve, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm going to let you go so you can make your next meeting. But thank you so much for your time and your thoughts. We really did enjoy them and benefit. So thank you so much. And thank you, everybody that took time out of their day to join us for coffee. Brooke, do you want to give us a quick update on what next week's coffee talk will be about?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna let Kat describe it. This is something that she's been wanting to do for quite a while. Kat?
We're going to be speaking on leadership from the Barry Posner Leadership Challenge, the 5 traits of great leaders. And, you know, sometimes you're not a manager, sometimes you're not a boss, sometimes you're just you, and you think, how in the world can I be a leader? Well, those are the things we're going to talk about next week, is how all of us can be leaders and are leaders and probably don't even realize it. So we're going to talk about how we can be more intentional in our leadership and enjoy it.
All right, thank you. I'll look forward to that. They always do a great tag team effort where they go back and forth, and I'm sure it'll be very good, entertaining, and beneficial. So again, thank you all for attending. We'll be here at the same time next week at 10 o'clock. Thank you, be well, and have a great day and weekend.
Likewise. Ciao, ciao.
Take care, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.